Most of us play Commander because it's social, and our dream is that we find the perfect playgroup. A group full of fun, like minded individuals where we come for the cardboard, but stay for the people. The reality can be, well, different. So I'm going to share how I think you can increase the chances of ending up in that perfect playgroup. Starting with knowing that the perfect playgroup starts with you. A very small amount of us will be lucky enough to stumble into an existing group full of the coolest, friendliest card slingers, and who just happen to think that we're pretty cool as well. For most of us, it will likely take some level of work to make this happen, and it's far more likely the playgroup of your dreams is one that you build. This is important as most people are passive and wait for things to happen. So be one of those people that is proactive and brings others together instead. To do this, you'll likely need to increase your stats. What I mean by this is that you're going to attract people that are similar to you, so you need to know what you're looking for in a playgroup and what your stats are. That way, you know who you're going to attract. If you'd like to have a very fun playgroup, you have to question how fun you are to play with. Are you making jokes, being lighthearted, playing casual decks that are fun to lose to? And are you as fun to be around when you lose as you are when you're winning? Or perhaps, if you want an incredibly competitive playgroup, you might want to ask how good you are at the game. Are you an incredibly sharp player, a master deck builder, or do you know the rules incredibly well? Essentially, what do you have to offer? And once you know that, you can get to work on finding your people. A bit like dating, you're probably going to have to kiss a few frogs before you find your prince. When you're starting out, or if you're just not vibing with your playgroup, get out there and make an effort to play with new people. Go to a new LGS, attend some magic events, maybe try some spell table in an online community. Whether you're hoping to play with your deck themed around goth mommies and perhaps go up against Magic's 50 hottest men, or perhaps you just want to play to test your newest CDH tech, there are a group of future friends out there that are looking for the same thing. It's much easier to play it safe and settle, but you will be far happier if you find people that you like who also share your views on what Commander should be. And that's important because this alignment is critical in creating a social, fun focused environment. Anywhere else in Magic, it's competitive by nature, and winning by any means necessary and a disregard for fun is perfectly normal. It's hardly surprising then that we deal with so many issues in our social format where some, either naively or nefariously, expect to have fun at the cost of others. The key here is about setting good expectations, making it clear from the start what sort of experience you and your group are trying to have, and celebrating what you want more of. This could be highly casual or hyper competitive. What fun looks like is completely subjective, so that's for you and your group to figure out, as long as it's aligned. Don't be afraid to be militant in marking clear lines in the sand. It means you're more likely to spot problems early on, and if you encounter them later, you'll have more confidence in dealing with them because you can refer back to when those expectations were set. Finding fun, or avoiding conflict, often leads to discussions about cards, which is why it's really important to know that there are no card problems, only people problems. If there is anything the recent banning discourse has proven, it's how problematic and divisive discussion around individual cards can be. But it's never these individual cards or decks that are the real problem. The real problem is that humans are complicated. We have baggage, and that communities of any kind therefore have tons of complex social dynamics. As Magic is historically a highly competitive community, the socially focused Commander community is that much more complex to navigate. Problems arise because of a lack of alignment and people either accidentally or intentionally playing problematic cards and then creating negative play experiences that aren't aligned with the people sitting across the table from them. This misalignment is a big part of what kills fun, and realizing this helps move the conversation on from the cardboard. I have been on both sides of this, and it's actually really simply solved by something that's surprisingly often lacking: communication, which is why you should communicate early and often. Us nerds aren't necessarily known for our expert social skills, so it's not shocking that at times we aren't the best communicators. Too often, however, I see people either liking something or not liking something, but not communicating that. The latter is far worse, as people stew over things, discuss it with anyone but the person that caused the issue, and then let it happen again, creating more frustration. The best way I know to avoid this is open, well natured communication, saying what we did or didn't like, and ideally, what we'd like to happen. It's not the easiest path, but it's the most likely to ensure that the playgroup you're in doesn't end up resembling a Game of Thrones episode. I found that if communication is approached with empathy, kindness, and positive intent, the people are usually very reasonable. But if they're not, or if you can't resolve that issue, you again have a people problem and not a card problem. At that point, you should and can get up and play with someone else. But if it turns out that your opinion is shared by the pod or your playgroup, then you need to eject the person that's causing the issue if they aren't wanting to change. In line with this, don't be afraid to cut people. Now, before you get too eager, what I mean is that relationships are a challenge. And sometimes when those relationships aren't working, you need to break up. Chances are this already happens in your playgroups, as some players are naturally excluded over time. Maybe they refuse to stop playing their Super Friends deck that everyone hates. Maybe they're misleading about their deck's power level, only to bring one deck that is clearly a gun to a knife fight week after week. Or perhaps they just refuse to shower. My recommendation is that if someone isn't passing the vibe check, go back to communicating clearly and explain what they're doing that's frustrating the group and how you'd like them to behave differently. Or in some cases, that you'd rather not play with them. I say this as someone that's non confrontational and has social anxiety, but a bit of very short term discomfort is far better than letting issues fester and poisoning the entire group. If someone reacts badly to a reasonable request, it's not like they were going to be anything but that way in the very next game you play with them. We have increasingly little time for fun in life. Don't waste it. A great way to ensure we have more fun is to have good pre-game conversations. There is absolutely nothing wrong with bumping Magic's most powerful or salty cards against each other, provided that everyone in the pod is signed up for it. Often, however, this is where many games and playgroups go wrong. I think the key thing is what kind of game everyone wants: low power and chilled, medium paced but powerful, or the fast and the furious. For my playgroup, decks tend to fall into one of these rough categories. We run very few CEDH decks, but the good time, not a long time category is where anything goes, and where we're expecting really busted things and wins anywhere from turn 4. Some of the more abrasive decks or strategies almost always go into the good time, not a long time category. Things like Annihilator combos or stacks. And this is surprisingly close to the new bracket system. Conversations around expectations definitely don't have to be serious, and they aren't in my playgroup. But if my playgroup is full of upgraded precons, I'm not bringing Eldrazi. If everyone's out for blood because it's the last game of the night, you best believe I'm cracking some heads with John Benton or trying to get out the biggest Eldrazi I can as early as possible. Another way to make sure that your playgroup is on the same page is sharing things that will help win them over to your point of view. If your playgroup is too serious for you, or not serious enough, find some content that speaks to what you want and share it with them. Try to expand people's horizons, and maybe they'll get as excited about that budget deck building challenge, Game of Kingdoms, or perhaps CEDH as you are. As an example of this, think about how you first came to play Commander. I imagine it's probably because a friend or some content introduced you to it. Someone will have spent tons of time thinking about and carefully crafting a message that hopefully does a good job. It's a little bit silly, but social proof really helps. And if you've got noteworthy faces with big followings saying something, people will often listen more closely. If there was one thing I could get you to share with your player groups, it would be doing a budget deck building challenge. I did this with my playgroup, and it's arguably the best thing we've done as a group. It completely refreshed how many of us felt about the games we were playing, solved a bunch of issues we had as a group, and made the games feel interesting, balanced, and fun. You can come up with any parameters you want, but I'd recommend a $50 price limit and alignment with the ban list. Beyond that, anything goes, as the price limitation will force people to discover interesting cards, as they won't be able to afford all the common staples. It'll probably also help people realize they may not want or need those staples they're used to in their other decks as well. The $50 limit will balance power pretty well and create a somewhat level playing field. We kept our commanders secret and revealed them when we played them, making for a whole lot of additional excitement on the day. This deck building challenge is a fantastic way to avoid or get out of the arms race mentality that many playgroups fall into. Which brings me to the final and arguably most important point of the video: accelerating the player journey. What I mean by this is that as commander players, most of us tend to follow a similar journey. We get introduced to commander and get our first deck, which is often a precon. We then learn the game and hopefully have a great time. Some will go off on adventures to discover novelty, like the cutest kitties they can find, or perhaps a commander that intrigues them. Many, however, will get stomped a few times too many, want to feel more competitive, and go in search of power. This can lead to really silly behavior, like typing strongest commander decks into Google and starting to build more powerful decks with more powerful cards, which in turn results in sizable imbalances of power in our playgroups. Suddenly, decks that were the most powerful just can't keep up. This kicks off an arms race where everyone is trying to keep their decks relevant and resorting to all the deadly sins of Commander to do so. This then leads to misalignment, and some could complain that Johnny Big Wallet smacks the playgroup around with his $1,000 Eldrazi deck every day. Others will complain that Nick No Money is proxying $100 staples and stomping everyone, whilst they are purists and are trying their best to fairly compete with a precon, $100, and a dream. Some individuals will never make it out of this power hungry mode, bouncing between playgroups and LGSs until they wear out their welcome. Or worse yet, their playgroup begrudgingly puts up with it, whilst hating every minute of it. Fortunately, many of us realize the error in our ways, or that such an arms race is absolutely pointless because it just ends up at CEDH and a level playing field. So our mindset shifts to fun, and we either play CEDH or explore casual novelty. Cards, commanders, and interaction that no one has seen before. The focus shifts from winning to delighting our playgroup and winning in the coolest way. This is Commander Heaven, and it can take months or even years for players and playgroups to go through this naturally, especially as different players grow at different paces. I find that awareness of this journey alone will make players realize the error in their ways, and the group discussion around this point, and some of the others in this video, will usually work wonders to help avoid much of the pain that this commander arms race can cause. I hope this helps you navigate some of the complexities of creating your perfect play experiences. This is less a video about cardboard and more of a video about people, which means this is all nuanced and subjective. If you have anything to add, or you'd like input on your own playgroup challenges, catch me in the comments. And thanks for watching.